I will say is calling needs to be part of your onboarding progression. Because if you hire an inside salesperson, a virtual seller who is call reluctant, you've got a whole bunch of issues, right? And you need to figure that out early. So I always talk about, okay, so let's call them low skill required calls first as part of the onboarding progression. But even more than understanding what you do and what you sell, they need to understand what you do for people. Like, nobody cares about your product and services. I say that all the time. They can read about you on the internet. What they need to understand is, how can you help them? What problems do you solve? And that's the onboarding that I think is critical, along with inside sales, virtual sales skills that are needed. Like, okay, how to leave a voicemail. I know this sounds crazy, but that is a skill that not everyone has. And truly, that is the number one thing. Like, Krista, how many bad emails have you gotten from people that where you went, wow, they need what I do?
Yeah.
I had too many, for sure.
Right? So those are skills. Like, we can't assume that we hire somebody and they know how to leave a voicemail message effectively. We can't assume they know how to write an email effectively. We can't assume that they understand the problems that we solve, or what it sounds like when you get somebody who's excited, right? So you're going to hire people. Some of them have what one of my coaching clients used to call happy ears. Like, he's like, okay, I had a happy ears on that call. I just didn't hear any of the red flags that were really there. And you have other people that don't hear opportunity. And that sometimes is the biggest difference between an experienced person and an inexperienced person, is that an experienced person gets off the phone and, on a call together, where I'm like, well, I heard 5 things. And the new salesperson is like, what? Like, I heard this and I heard this and I heard this and I heard this. Right.
In my project management, with working with clients, and you have a project manager, and I get off the meeting with the client, I'm like, oh, we can sell them this and we can sell them that. And there's all these things. And then the project manager doesn't even think one thought about where the opportunities are.
Yeah. They don't hear them. They just, like, it's a different thing again, to Debbie's point of listening as a skill set, listening as communication. Hearing opportunity is something that we have to teach people what it sounds like.
Lynn, I was thinking about, oftentimes, like, if we're the head of sales and, we're training our inside salespeople, or we're the owner who's never had an inside salesperson, there's so much that we do that we don't even think about. So when we're onboarding them, we're thinking about, okay, they need, like you said, they need to leave voicemails. Well, what do we really say in the voicemail? And then when we get them, what do we really say? And this cultivating them through every bit of it and dissecting what you really do so that they can do what you want them to do is often truly overlooked, because they're saying, oh, well, it's just 5 points, do this, 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 and this. And then they don't get the results that they want.
And we have a question about, do inside salespeople think they already have the skills, listening, voicemail, hearing opportunities, and how do we help them, even master salespeople, get better? So let's talk about new people first. I think that if you hire someone, you have a honeymoon learning period. That even if they're coming in experienced, they're like, okay, this is new. I'm going to listen. Now, for the record, there are people who are not great at coaching, right? Being coached. So if you hire someone who is not coachable, again, Debbie and I could probably do an entire webinar on that. But assuming that you've hired well and the person is looking to be truly successful, you've got a honeymoon period. I think you've got 3 months where they're willing to try anything you tell them will work. Again, it's a little bit of a sale, right? This is what we've found to be successful, and this is why we found it to be successful. Here's what we're asking you to do. Just like with a customer, right? You are selling the new person on the ideas that you are training them on. They have to understand why it works and believe that you're teaching them best practices for your organization. How do you get master salespeople to get better, Debbie?
Oh, continue learning. And the thing about mastery is just like, we generally think of it with athletes, where they work and practice and practice and practice, and then it's just, it's built in, their whole body knows what to do. I think, reminding yourself, continue to learn. I showed up at a sales seminar one time, was late, arrived, came in back row. The room was kind of dark, and when it opened up, somebody stood up in front of me and went, "Marising, what in the world are you doing here?" And it's like, I'm always trying to be better. And sometimes being better is reminding me of something I already knew, but I forgot, and I'm not practicing so well anymore. So I believe the learning is like life. It is constant.
And the other piece of that puzzle, I think, is if you create an environment of learning inside your organization where you expect everyone, regardless of their role, their job function, their tenure, to continue to grow as people, that is an organization where it's easier to get someone who believes that they are a master at their craft to keep learning.
Absolutely.
So,
and one of the questions about how long should this onboarding take? There was a time that companies like Xerox, AT&T, those kind of people, you could not speak to a customer until 6 months of onboarding. And that went away. People said, no, that's too long. Well, AT&T's corporate headquarters are here in Dallas. And I'm here to tell you, they've gone back to onboarding as truly acknowledging it as a process. It takes time. It does not take 6 months for everybody, and I understand that. But it's like there is a time frame here. Lynn, is there something, a rule of thumb or something you use?
So I will share with you that I believe that onboarding, you should have an 18-month plan. That doesn't mean they're not talking to customers, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean you're not doing the job, but I believe that if you have an 18-month plan where, okay, it's front-ended, right? Like there's more going on in the first 3 months than in the end, you are cultivating that idea that we expect you to continue to learn. And we continue to get better at things you're already doing, right? So that means that, okay, a class on how to leave a good voicemail in month 1, the first week of your employment, is going to be different content than we're going to give you in month 18. But
Absolutely.
We're still going to do that kind of training, right? And you can either hire somebody like me, hire somebody like Debbie to do that kind of training. You also can do some of it internally, right? You gather the best practices from the people who are doing the things that you're asking somebody else to do. You might have an engineer who's fantastic at discovery questions that you can have help you do your onboarding, right? So it doesn't have to be an external person. And again, if there's 7 people in the company, everybody's good at everything, right? Right. Smaller organizations, you've got skill sets. You just have to realize who is the best at it and are they a good teacher as well.